Welcome to Trucking Tributes. I'm your host for Trucking Tributes, Susan Patten. And today on Trucking Tributes on Radio Nemo, I'm joined by Vince Strupp, a longtime friend of Wreaths Across America. Vince, thanks so much for joining Trucking Tributes today. I am hoping, sir, that you will tell me about how you got involved in trucking.
I started when I was 14 years old. It was during the summer in between my eighth grade and freshman year of high school, working for a neighbor of mine on a dairy farm. And he had two single axle flatbed trucks. And during the, I think we broke new land, cleared new land. So my job was basically drive both trucks. I would take one loaded one and go about a quarter mile down the road and uh, dump it and come back, get the other loaded one, back and forth all day long like that. So that was the first time that I actually had driving by myself. And then later, through the years, and when I was in high school, I worked for a neighbor of mine. Uh, he had milk trucks that he'd pick up milk at the local dairy farms, and it was all canned milk in 10-gallon cans. So on weekends, I would help him out by doing one of the routes, and so that took me through my high school years. And then after that, I guess I was about a year and a half after I graduated high school. I was drafted into the Army. And, after all of the training, uh, basic training and AIT, um, I was we were assigned to about a week that we had basically no orders of any other sort other than I was at Fort Hood, Texas, and we were all given different duty jobs for that time period. And so, the old saying in the Army is you never volunteer for anything. And so, but uh, there was a duty roster made up, and I volunteered for the motor pool. And then at that time, I got to drive uh, rubber tire vehicles around for the week or 10 days that we were there yet. And after that, we got orders for Europe. And once I got over to Germany, I was assigned to the 24th Infantry Division, the headquarters company. And at that time, they were doing maneuvers, so which was field duty. And I was taken out to the headquarters, and there was the supply and transportation sergeant standing there when I walked into the tent, and he looked at me and he said, "You look like a truck driver." And so I said, "Then he asked me, he says, have you ever driven a military vehicle?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I did back in the States." And then he said, "Well," he said, "when we go back to our post in Augsburg," he said, "you'll be driving from here back there, and I'll be riding with you, and then I'll decide whether you can drive a truck."
No pressure there, Vince. No.
No. So I passed the test and got to drive all over Germany and 2 or 3 weeks after I got back to the post after the maneuver, the entire battalion was airlifted to Thessalonica, Greece. So I got uh, drove my truck that I was assigned to through Greece into Turkey, and then it was through the course of about I think it was a little over 3 months, and right before Thanksgiving we were airlifted back to uh, Germany, and then I finished my tour of duty in Germany and came back to the States. Was uh, was in the reserves, and so I did some more military driving at Fort McCoy for 2 weeks, and after that, when I got when I got back to the States, I went back to my old job, which was working at the Chrysler Company, and I just couldn't. I didn't like working inside. I wanted to be outside, and so I got into a trucking company hauling drywall. And from there, I went to another trucking company driving a quad axle dump truck, and was there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and then uh, went back home on the family farm and my wife and I started farming and raising a family and all that. So we always had it, we always had trucks on the farm, but nothing with it like I was used to doing every day. So after I got the kids had grown up, and I decided to uh, renew my chauffeur's license at the time, and now it's called the CDL, and went back into trucking full time and long haul trucking.
Wow.
So my first, then I bought I think 1996 Volvo, and it had over 1 million miles on it. And so,
It's barely broken in, right, Vince? Just barely
yeah,
broken
just, yeah, yeah, at first it was more broke than in.
in. So I am speaking with Vince Strupp. Vince Strupp is a U.S. Army veteran and professional driver, owner, operator. You're listening to Trucking Tributes. I'm your host for Trucking Tributes, Susan Patten. And we want to thank the folks on Radio Nemo for having us on the show this morning as well. So, Vince, I want to take you back before we get into your trucking and being the owner operator and doing that and so forth. What was your favorite part? Is that the right way to say it? Maybe your favorite part of your military service and your military career?
Oh, the, the experience that I was fortunate enough to be in, uh, you couldn't buy. There was no dollar amount could buy that experience. And not only that, but uh, the travel. Uh, it just was. I think back of it, and I look at the pictures that I taken back then, and think you scratch your head and you say, I really did that, you know, and it's it was an honor to do what I did, and whether it was picking up rations at the commissary and delivering them to the different mess halls in Augsburg on a daily basis, or out in the boondocks, driving through the different countries and seeing how people lived. And you could, like I said, you could not uh, buy that experience that I was able to uh, go through.
Yeah. Well, you started as a young lad, helping out on the farm and then go into the military, get that experience in the United States Army. You got to see some of the world. You came back and said, "Hey, I still want to be driving. That's what is in my blood," as they say, that diesel runs in your veins, right, Vince? And decided that you wanted to start out. So you bought a truck. Then what happened, Vince?
Okay, after I purchased the first truck, probably I don't know, put close to a million miles on that truck, and in 2007, I decided I was going to start out, trade it in, and get into a new truck. And that truck I had spec'd out the way I wanted it and everything when I purchased it. And so that uh, company I was with signed on to mostly East Coast freight and mostly refrigerated freight. So um, after I think it was about 2012, I decided I didn't want to go east anymore. I wanted to see the West Coast too. So I had to switch companies to do that. And then at the same time, by doing the West Coast, uh, most of the carriers were looking for team operators.
Hmm.
So I was able to find a partner that would we could run team, and so I did that. Was able to cover all the states and Canada,
Wow.
and so I seen a lot of North America at that time, and that every day was a new day, and you never seen the same thing uh, over. You always seen something new every day, and I enjoyed that part of the occupation. And then even the different types, the climate changes throughout the year, winter, summer, fall, spring, that always brought a new challenge. And so after, I think it was about 2 years ago, uh, and my wife used to travel with me too whenever she could. And that was always uh, a good way to see the country through the windshield of a truck, of course. But
Hey, that's a great view. That's a great view on the world, I think.
yes, and then the other thing uh, is she got sick, and then so I had to come off the road, and at this time my truck has got 2,347,000 miles on it,
Wow.
and on the road every day. So my partner that drove team with me is driving solo now, and as I'm at home and take care of things back here. And
Well, life sometimes
Uh,
demands that, doesn't it, Vince? I mean, the one thing that you've certainly learned in your experience and in life is that life demands changes sometimes, and we have to do what we have to do to take care of our home and our family. And it's great to know that your partner is still out there. Now, let me ask you, when did you first get involved with Wreaths Across America? Because I am told by Courtney George that you have been with us as a member of our honor fleet for 14 years. So, what was that story about, Vince? How'd you first get connected with us?
well, I got satellite radio in my truck, so I had Dave Nemo show on,
Aha,
and I heard the promotion about getting involved with Wreaths Across America, and it was, oh, I think in maybe 2 weeks before wreath laying.
wow,
And so I called the people at Wreaths Across America in Columbia Falls, how I can get involved. And well, everything was, kind of too late for this year or that year.
right?
And so they took my number and everything. And the following, I guess it was in June or July the following year, I got a phone call in regards to whether or not I was still interested in becoming a volunteer. And I said, I sure am. So they told me where I had to be, what time for to pick up my load in Columbia Falls. Well, I got there probably about a week ahead of time. So when I checked in, uh, I think it was Rob that introduced himself to me, and I told him I was there for to load Reed's going to Arlington, and then whoa, Rob says Arlington. I says, well, I guess that's where I was told. Oh, he says we got a waiting list for that, and then and then I was a little disappointed, but about a day later, he came out to my truck, and he said, "If you can help us out," he says, "I promise you'll go to Arlington." And I said, "Well, what do you need?" He says, "We need a load of wreaths going to Chicago before your load loads." So, in other words, your load is already loaded going for Chicago on somebody else's trailer, and I think it was Paddles. And I got the okay from the carrier I was leased to. So my wife and I, we headed for Chicago, delivered those wreaths, and did headed all the way back to Columbia Falls to pick up the load going to Arlington.
Wow, you're giving me goose.
And pardon me.
You're giving me goosebumps. This is a great story.
And so we got back uh, in time to make that trip to Arlington, and I had never been to Arlington before that.
Wow.
All the trucking I did, I've been all over Washington D.C., but never to Arlington. So that experience alone was unbelievable. And then uh, there was, I think, 50. No, it wasn't quite that many. I think it's about 40 some trucks going into Arlington on my first trip in there, and what just what transpired over the years that I've been doing this. Now the number of trucks is close to 60, if not over 60. That's how that's how that has grown.
You are
And
absolutely right, Vince. You are absolutely right. We have grown and we've grown because of patriotic Americans who have been sponsoring these veterans wreaths. I'm speaking with Vince Strupp, professional driver, owner, operator. Vince Strupp on Trucking Tributes on Radio Nemo. I'm your host, Susan Patten. And Vince has been with Wreaths Across America for 14 years, hauling America's respect. So you and your wife were able to go into Arlington together, Vince. Can you think back? What were your thoughts? What were your emotions at the time?
well, at that time, the first time in there, my wife and I are both veterans. She was an Air Force uh, veteran, and I was Army, and that meant a lot to us being able to do that. It was a great honor to be able to do that. I look at every time I got a little sign in the back of my truck when we are loaded. It says a truckload of respect. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, to see that cemetery transform in a couple of hours from white grave markers to a sea of white, red, and green is amazing. Just amazing. And to see the people coming out to do this is also amazing. It's hard to believe, with all the turmoil that is within our country sometimes, and see all this patriotism on that given day. It's just overwhelming. And not only that, but I was able to start. My wife and I belong to our local American Legion post, and I was able to start our post off in becoming an affiliate of Wreaths Across America with the volunteers, to where we do 18 cemeteries
Wow.
in our county on wreath-laying day.
Wow.
And that had gone from, we started out with one case of wreaths, and now we're over 1,000 wreaths. That's how it's grown within our uh, county.
That is exceptional. Wow, Vince, gone from truck driver, a member of our honor fleet, hauling America's respect, to actually getting your American Legion involved and bringing on more participating cemeteries. And Vince, I got to tell you, in 2025, Courtney George tells us that we are going to increase our payload by 100,000 to 200,000 wreaths. In 2025, Vince, we are going to be at over 5,000 participating locations in addition to Arlington National Cemetery, all because of that patriotism of which you speak coming from American citizens. Folks are always saying, thank you, Wreaths Across America. And my immediate response is, thank American citizens, because it's the American citizens who get it. They understand why it's so important for us to remember, honor, and teach. And they step forward to not only sponsor those veterans wreaths, but they step forward to volunteer, just as you and your wife have, and the members of your American Legion post. It really is exceptional. And we can't thank you from the bottom of our hearts enough, Vince, for your dedication. First of all, your military service and that of your wife's, but also for your dedication to the mission and hanging tough with us, because I'm sure over the course of 14 years, Vince, it hasn't always been easy for you to do what you do for us, yet you persevere. And as our theme says in 2025, you keep moving forward. You keep getting the job done. So, what's in store for you for this year? Do you have an idea of what's up for you this year?
Well, I plan on doing another year. And, a lot of people ask me how long, especially my buddies at the Legion Post, how long I was going to do it yet. I always tell them 1 year at a time. And I look when we're after the wreaths are completely laid on that Saturday afternoon, I'm looking forward to the next year already,
Oh,
and hopefully I can do it. And I don't do it alone. My driver that I have goes with me, and so that's it's just and the people that you meet from when I first started are still there yet. A lot of them, and you see them every year and trade stories and stuff like that. But and then the get together uh, throughout those couple of days is just a wonderful time. And not only that, but I look back at when laying those wreaths. The first time we grabbed, my wife and I grabbed a wreath to lay it on a graveside, and mentioning the veteran's name that's on that stone. It was quite an honor to do that because, you know, that's probably the only time in the year that his name or her name is mentioned out loud, and that is that we never forget, never forget.
that's
So,
absolutely right, Vince. Absolutely right. Vince Strupp, professional driver, owner, operator, longtime friend of Wreaths Across America, a member of our honor fleet for 14 years, joining us again in 2025. And I just love how you explained it to your folks at the American Legion. Hey, it's one day at a time, one year at a time, one step at a time, and that's why and how we all keep moving forward in life and getting the mission done. You know, we all know that life changes, things change, people change, circumstances change. But I think what all of us associated with Wreaths Across America know that the mission to remember, honor, and teach is going to live on in perpetuity through the younger generation, that we teach the value of this freedom and we teach the traditions of wreath laying too. Vince Strupp, I cannot thank you enough for taking time with us today on Trucking Tributes. We appreciate you a great deal, and we are going to see you again in December. Thanks so much for taking time out today on Trucking Tributes.
so welcome. It was a pleasure relating my experiences to your show.
I appreciate you sharing your stories with us.